Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Centric. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Only Murders in the Building, Season 3, Episode 3. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So obviously, I think it's so interesting, kind of like, I'm curious to see how this plays out in kind of almost like a meta level for the show that Oliver isn't going to be a part of the investigation. Makes sense. To be fair, like his cast is being investigated while he's focusing on like trying to get the play, well now musical started. And so I guess for him, and even to the point later on he bans Mabel but not Charles. I guess it makes sense. Charles is actually part of the production, so you're going to let any investigating he does slide, whereas Mabel is going to just investigate in general. And I guess for Charles, for Oliver, it's like, I'm not trying to find the killer right now because what if the killer is one of my cast members? I need them all to kind of make this go. Like, I've already kind of got shot in the foot because my lead is dead. So, but I just thought that was so interesting, and just how, like, once again, how meta that is. And that's going to be so interesting considering, like, the Three Musketeers aren't together for this particular season. And I could definitely see that being a meta joke of, like, oh, yeah, like, oh, man, this show's kind of going off the deep end. The fact of the matter is, not all three of them are together. And it's like, all three of them need to be together for the magic of the podcast. And, how does that work? I wonder, you also kind of get into that point thinking, like, are they going to stockpile these where they're going to put off recording them? Or maybe they're going to record their bits and then, like, Oliver's going to come back and add his bits to every episode. Maybe that's going to be how they do it. I don't know. That's definitely going to be interesting to see how that kind of stacks up. I even love the joke of, they're looking at Kimber as a potential suspect. I mean, everyone's a suspect, but Kimber, it's like, oh, did she do it for an internet meme? And I love Mabel being like, why'd you say it like that? You know what? Never mind. I don't know if Charles legitimately doesn't know how to say meme, and so he said meme because I said it the way I think it's spelled out, but I don't know if he's trying to put his own little swag to it. Just kind of, how people will jokingly, instead of saying meme, some people are like, oh, like sweet meme. Like, that was a pretty funny meme. Like, maybe it's something like that. Maybe Charles, like I said, trying to put his own spin to it, but yeah. I do like that because Mabel couldn't show up to, like, the rehearsal and stuff. Well, specifically, he said she was banned from the rehearsal, not necessarily, like, from any other, like, not unless he changes that in the future, but it was specifically in the rehearsal because he so much was riding on this rehearsal because he needed to get Donna and Clifford on his side. Cliff was more on his side than his mom was. Because Donna was just kind of like, yeah, this, like, play doesn't have that showstopper number. And unless it does, then, and it's like, right. Oliver wanted a couple months. He's like, cool, you got 3 days. He's like, cool, I was just hoping that you would say 3 days. So he stressed himself out trying to, he stayed up with Howard and Jonathan trying to, like, write the musical in, like, one night, and just got one actual song and then got, like, pieces of ideas and stuff for the others. But anyway, Mabel ends up hanging out with Taubert. I'm messing up on her myself, and I do love they have that bit where it's just like he messes up her name, calling her like Margot, and she's like, really gonna mess up on my name? You're gonna make fun of my name, And even I just thought that was kind of interesting thing. Which now you're kind of like, okay, so are they setting that up as like a new love interest? Because she gets a new one every season, so I'm wondering if that's going to be the case. To be fair, like Charles is kind of in that same boat because his love interest kind of slid over into season 2, but it ended up being kind of Joy at the end, and now they're dating. So it's just like it's interesting how that played out too. But it's like, yeah, Mabel's definitely got a different love interest every season. So it feels like Tobert will be that in this particular case. I also love that. Once again, just those, like, it's kind of like an inside joke. It's like the fact is that. Loretta she's like, oh, like, Dickie's now her representative, and her manager, and now he ended up getting her an audition for a show that's an offshoot of a spin-off of Grey's Anatomy, which is funny because if you're unaware, the actor who plays Taubert, Jesse Williams, is a Grey's Anatomy alumni. So I was like, oh, that was 100%, that particular line of dialogue was, like, on purpose. It makes you wonder, like, because, some of those things were probably added last minute just as like, because a lot of the season is obviously written ahead of time, but they probably make changes along the way, and just maybe after Jesse Williams was cast, they added that. I'm curious because that might have been a line of dialogue already written in the script, but then like, it felt kind of like too on purpose, so it felt like that was probably like added after the fact, just to kind of be like a funny wink and nod. I mean, with how long Grey's Anatomy has been on air, I mean, there's no telling like how many of the like other cast members, maybe not the main cast, but like other supporting cast, like there's no telling how many of them have actually been on Grey's Anatomy. So I also love that they both went into Ben's Talbert and Mabel went into Ben's place, each lying about why they were there. But Mabel's lie was like horrendous, where she's like, "Yeah, I left a headshot there," and he's like, such a clean and totally believable, normal way you went about saying that. It's like, she's a horrible lie. You'd think you'd have one prepared just in your back pocket, considering all the like sneaking around and investigating you've done for the past 2 seasons. You'd think you'd be better at that, but it's like, no. I mean, to be fair, I guess she wasn't expecting anyone else to go to Ben's penthouse, which is like, right, third time Mabel's been there, and it's like, this is the first time she's like been in love, because I guess she's like, I'm fine with Sting and Amy Schumer, but it's like Ben obviously was fundamental to her upbringing, once again, like her relationship with her mom. What I also thought was interesting, one of the pictures of Ben on the wall is him with like longer hair and a mustache. I'm like, is that just Paul Rudd from Paul Rudd's character from oh god, from Anchorman? I don't. It kind of looks a little similar. I feel like that had to be like another wink and nod to Paul Rudd's filmography and stuff like that. It feels like that had to be an homage to that, but maybe I mean, hell, for all I know, maybe it is a picture taken directly from something Anchorman related. Maybe not. Like I said, it might have just been meant to be an homage and not anything direct. I also love finding out that Talbert is a fan of Only Murders in the Building, the podcast, because he's like, oh yeah, I recognize your voice, but he's like, I didn't piece it together, and then he was kind of like, you're not what I imagine you to be, or something like that. And I also love that he's like, oh yeah, I really love the first season. Second season, kind of not. I definitely like the first season more than the second season. But the second season, it was cute. And she's like, cute? And he's like, yeah, it means I like it. She's like, yeah, glad to know that, like, following around Ben, being kind of a documentarian for him is a lot more important than, like, the podcast that we do where we solve murders. But I love that, once again, I love those meta jokes, because I'm not saying everyone feels that way, but I know there are a few people who did like season 1 more than season 2, and I love how referential the show is, even to the point, I think I meant to bring it up earlier when they were suspecting Kimber, but I love that Charles is like, hey, it'd probably be too much if it was her. I mean, we've already done the, like, female killer to death. It's like, yeah, to be fair, it's like, that was done twice, back-to-back seasons, so we're like, are you going to do it for a third time? So I love how they kind of, like I said, how, like, they are, how self-aware this show is in that regard. I did like the bonding moment that they had where he kind of talked about that baby elephant story, which was really cute. I kind of thought I was like really surprised when he was like, oh yeah, I saved the baby elephant. It's like, really? Did you do it? But no, we find out later on he was lying. He just say, like, it's like, oh, I didn't want to ruin the shot, like that. And I think that kind of shows you who Talbert is, that the fact is that the what he's capturing means so much more. Because that's even why he's sticking around, because it's like, now that Ben is dead, and he potentially recorded his killer, because the night of the opening night show, he had left the camera, well, I think Ben had taken the camera, but it was still rolling, and so we caught some of it on camera, but we never got to see who Ben was talking to. Obviously, it's too early in the season to really know who that is, but I thought that was so interesting. Obviously, it's someone he has some kind of special connection with, which I'm immediately like, I'm wondering who could that be. He's like, oh, like, you kind of like, oh, you're bad for me, but I love you or whatever. So obviously it seems like it's Kimber, but I'm like, it can't be. And I'm like, I wonder, is it going to be Loretta? Like, I wondered, was there something kind of going on secretly between them? You kind of hope not, just for Oliver's sake, because obviously, like, the whole her and Oliver thing has kind of been going. So not less Ben and Loretta kind of have a further back history that we're just not aware of. Not unless it's, I don't know if she's the PA. She wasn't in this episode. I think she's the PA. Or I forgot what she was. She was the person that was kind of tearing down the set and taking it, and Oliver was like trying to take it back from her last episode. I don't think she's a PA. She's something else. I forgot her position, but not unless it was her. Not unless it's like a Jonathan situation, which I hope that's not the case, because I feel so bad for Howard if that's the case. That'd be very heartbreaking or something, like if that ends up being the case. But my money initially is on Loretta, but it could easily fly to anyone. Once again, it's like, it's so easy for it to be Loretta, especially because they made the joke of like, oh, it can't be a woman killer the third season in a row. But also, it's just, she seems like too perfect to fit that role. Not unless she ends up, her character, not unless the character of Loretta ends up getting killed later on in the season. You know, the way they're kind of setting that up between her and Kimber, where it's just like, oh, like, she's supposed to, like, because she's supposed to, I guess, have like the larger role, female role of it, but now it's like, now that Ben's gone, like, now after Loretta killed it with that song, which, what was it, Look for the Light, which was an amazing and beautiful song, and Kimber's part to playing in as well, but it's like, that was all Loretta for most of that. So, and it's like, she's getting all that shine, because once again, I don't remember if like the nanny was always going to be like a smaller part, and maybe she only got small bits of it when she was auditioning, or whether it's just that, I think that might have just been the case. It's like, oh, it's a small bits just for the audition bit, but maybe it's a core character to the production. Maybe I've just underestimated how big of a role the nanny has in it, but it just seems like Kimber's feeling like she's getting outshined, and you don't want to share that spotlight. Once again, just setting up all the red herrings they can, because that's any good crime drama, any good mystery for you is set up red herring after red herring, because they don't want you to see the twist coming. So, but I do love that it was actually Loretta that ended up getting more so Cliff in their corner, and obviously by association getting Donna involved, because she was initially not going to really do it, but Cliff was like, no, Mom, remember what the doctor told me when on my 8th birthday? It's like, that you should stop being breastfed. And I looked Oliver's face, and he's like, and what did you say to me? She was like, if you love something, you should keep doing it. His face, it's like, oh, that twisted relationship. It's just like, oh, that's going to get more jacked up as the season goes on. It's just like, oh, that's such a, that's a thing. I also love Charles' way to try and get everybody. The whole point is, right, we find the killer by finding out who doesn't have their handkerchief, and his way to try to get it is like, oh, we should do it to kind of do like a memorial for Ben. We should all like take out our handkerchiefs, and then even later on being like, oh yeah, like I'll knit it into like a quilt or whatever, and then later on it's like, oh, we want to tell Oliver we're done with him, because like Charles tried to join the bandwagon of hating on Oliver, and he's like, what we should do is we should all get our handkerchiefs and throw them at his feet, and then I'll pick him up and kind of make him into the quilt, like I was saying before, the blanket / quilt I was bringing up before. I also love that because he went on this whole diatribe about like I forgot the point, because he got so lost in it that I'm trying to remember the point he was trying to make. He ended up bringing up Hitler and Stalin as people, you can't forgive or whatever. But then he was like, yeah, but I you can't feel bad for them. I can feel bad for their wives. And he tried to find out what Stalin's wife's name was. And I just love Kimber being like, wait, so what were you saying about Hitler? It's like, yeah, the whole diatribe went so far to, one way, which it's kind of an interesting parallel, which not the Hitler element of it, but the diatribe going a different direction is that, I love that that's what Loretta said about Oliver's stories. It's like, yeah, they're like the ending of his stories are usually miles away from where they started, and that's what she loves about it. It's like she's like, yeah, one of the things I love about Oliver Putnam's stuff, it's like, it's actually really sweet and cute that it's like, that's something there, that it's like they both like each other. I mean, even to the point at the end, he's like, "Oh, I'm so proud of you. I could kiss you," and he does. Because I felt so bad, because she's torn between, hey, this is going to be consistent work you're going to get on this show that she auditioned for because she got it, but then, you know, Oliver's like, no, she has to stay, and kind of forces her hand by being like, she's under contract. It's because he found someone who understands his vision, who sees him for him, and he was afraid to lose her, because if without her, like, she's the one person that understands him, and if she's gone, he's going to feel lost again. So, but he apologizes, and she still decides that she's going to, you know, stick around with him. So I was like, I thought that was cute. And obviously it's like, there's a budding romance there, and I'm afraid it's not going to work out. Like, things haven't worked out for any of Mabel's relationships, and if there is a whole and her and Talbot thing this season, I don't think that's going to work out, but I sadly don't think the Loretta thing. Either it's like, she's going to be the killer, which I don't think she's going to be, but we'll leave that possibility open. But the fact of the matter is, it could be a situation of, yeah, she goes off to Hollywood at the end of all of this and kind of is able to build a career, so her and Oliver don't really get to see each other anymore. They kind of have to put whatever is happening between them on the back burner and kind of like turn off the stove. I don't know why I kind of went that far with the metaphor, but, you know, hopefully you get what I'm trying to say. Just because it's like, right, she has her dreams to pursue, and maybe the play ends up being a hit, and now he has to kind of continue going forward. Like, what's he going to do following all of this, and how long the Broadway show and the musical will keep going. That's getting way, way, way ahead of myself in all of this, but still. Yeah, because I had actually lost the thread, because I'd forgotten what kind of started the conversation about Loretta talking about how awesome Oliver is because he was like, yeah, like, who I am, I'm big and I'm loud, and she's like, yeah, but you're more than just loud, Oliver. Like, you know, it's like there's a sincerity, there's heart, and she was kind of saying that that's what this play needed, and her song at the end ended up being kind of like what is going to be a heart and foundation to play. Once again, why Cliff kind of signed off on it, like, yeah, he wants to take a chance on this musical. Like I brought up earlier, Kimber is like currently the number one suspect because, well, obviously there was something between her and Ben. Everyone's assuming it was a relationship because Ben did apologize for whatever went down between them. I don't think it was a relationship. There might be something else deeper there, but we'll see. But she also like came up with an excuse of why she doesn't have her handkerchief. So it's like, yeah, once again, red herring, but I'm curious what the reason is for why she doesn't have it. Did she legitimately give it away? Or is it because there was so much bad blood between her and Ben that she ended up destroying it, or what? I'm really excited to ultimately see where the next episode takes us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and good